I feel like I've talked about the subject we're about to discuss many times before in the past. In fact, I think I've talked about it as recently as a week or two ago. I posted a video where we discussed a common phenomenon in World of Warships Legends. A lot of the games that you play are going to be domination mode matches like this, where there's three, maybe four objectives, and there's two ways to win. Number one, you can sink all the enemy ships. Secondly, you can take and hold the majority of the objectives for most of the game and then overtake the enemy on points, reach 1,000 points first, and win. The latter method is the most reliable one. That's ultimately what you want to do in domination mode. You want to get the majority of the caps, you want to hold them for as long as you can, and you want to win on points. Much more reliable and consistent than trying to sink all of the enemy ships. There are 9 of them, 9 of you. It's easy enough to sink in the process trying to pursue all of them. We are playing the legendary tier American battleship USS Ohio. And if you take a look at the minimap as this battle progresses, what you'll see is the blue team is going to secure both the Alpha and Bravo caps quite early on. There's going to be a battle at the Charlie cap that we're not participating in, and for a long time in the match, nobody's actually going to secure Charlie. But with the blue team holding both Alpha and Bravo, that's going to mean we're able to overtake the enemy team on points in rather short order. And so, it would be incumbent on the enemy team to take back the Alpha and Bravo caps from us, while simultaneously securing Charlie, in order to obtain the majority of the objectives themselves and overtake us on points. And so, if we're in a position where we've secured the majority of the objectives, what we don't want to do is needlessly push into the enemy team and sink. And of course, that's what's going to happen in this battle. But there are some ways to recognize that and to avoid throwing. And that's what we'll be demonstrating with USS Ohio. Now, as we approach the Alpha Cap, we take position behind this island here, blocking line of sight from the Hindenburg, and there's also a Des Moines out there, both of whom can HE spam us to port in short order. And of course, we were spotted on the way in. The cap turned red, so we knew the enemy destroyer was inside of it, which is why we didn't immediately go around the corner of this capture circle. You know, if you're spotted and you can't see the thing that's spotting you, and the cap is turning red in front of your eyes, good chance the destroyer is there, and so you can just assume that they've launched torpedoes at you. That's how we're able to avoid the Minigumo, who smokes up in response to being spotted by the friendly Minigumo. This guy is now in the capture circle, and because I'm close to the cap, so is the friendly battleship and the friendly cruiser near the map border. Well, that enemy Minigumo doesn't have as much support as our friendly one does, so he's probably hesitant to be spotted. He's clearly left the capture circle, and now our destroyer is going to be able to take it. Meanwhile, we've got 2 friendly ships inside Bravo, one of which is a battleship. Probably not the best idea, but we've also got a cruiser in there. I doubt he is spotted by any of the Reds. The battleship certainly is. He's taking fire. And so they're going to constantly be resetting the capture progress inside of Bravo. But so long as the friendly cruiser remains dark, he'll eventually take it. And then once he does, we'll have secured both Alpha and Bravo. And as you can see, if you take a look at the minimap, the red team is spread out in a very passive line of ships, stretching all the way from north of the Alpha Cap to north of the Charlie Cap. Although you do see a battleship pushing in on the Charlie flank. It's actually a 4v3 over there, so unlikely that the blue team is going to win that side, but we may be able to win this one. And the friendly battleship in the Bravo cap goes down as the first casualty of the game. However, the friendly Dalian is still inside of it, safely inside a smoke screen where he can't be spotted, and so he should be able to secure that cap. We should point out that Dalian, by the way, because he is also going to be an invaluable member of the team. Neither me or the Dalian are going to finish this game at the top of the leaderboard. That honor is going to go to the Minigumo. But I submit to you, and let me know if you disagree with me in the comments by the time we get to the end of this match. But I submit to you that the reason we get the outcome in this match that we do is because of my actions and because of the Dalian's actions, despite the fact that neither one of us end up on the top of the leaderboard. Anyway, we've secured the Alpha Cap, and because the Minigumo is pushing out into all of these ships here and getting vision of them, we're going to push with him. And so is the friendly battleship and the cruiser with us. However, we see danger on the other side of this island. We've got one Preußen over there, and if we push out, he's going to have our broadside. Meanwhile, we've got the enemy Preußen and the Hindenburg and Des Moines way out there. But notice something. Those guys are far enough away from us that they wouldn't be able to detect us. And the island here is blocking that Preußen from having direct line of sight. So why are we spotted right now, after the firing penalty wears off? Well, obviously, it's because of the Minigumo. And you see, we reverse here, and we go dark. That means the Minigumo is somewhere very close to that Preußen that's 9 kilometers away. And undoubtedly, he's trying to torpedo us, as he was in the beginning of the match, which is why we're reversing here. And so, you can see the torpedoes don't hit us. If anybody ever tells you, because I have 12.4 kilometer concealment on the Ohio, how do I do that? Well, I use the concealment module, I use Kondo, and then I use Azerlane Sovietsky Rossiya as the two inspirations. So we've got 12.4 kilometer concealment. That is directly how we knew that torpedoes were likely to come around that gap, because the enemy team was too far away from us to spot us, and because we were spotted, we knew it had to be the Minigumo, and therefore torpedoes are likely to come. Building into your concealment like that helps you deal with enemy destroyers, because if you're spotted at 12.4 kilometers versus something like, say, 13.7, well, then there's a lot fewer places the destroyer could be, isn't there? And so it can help you avoid torpedoes. One of the many reasons to spec into concealment on your battleship. The other reason will be evident near the end of this game. Well, maybe not, but being spec'd into concealment also allows you to disengage when you're focused by a superior number of ships and get away without sinking needlessly. We are going to have to be doing that soon. However, you wouldn't know it from looking at the current results in the battle. The enemy team has lost 2 ships. We've lost 2. We're far ahead of them on points because we have the majority of the capture circles, and the enemy team doesn't even have 1. So the only points that they're getting right now are the points that they get for sinking the 3 battleships that they've sunk. Meanwhile, we're accruing points every couple of seconds from both the Alpha and Bravo caps, and so we will be able to overtake the enemy team on points. By the way, as we push in here toward this broadside Preußen, we continue to go dark after the salvos. Now we'll be spotted since we're close to the Preußen, but that's an indication that the enemy Minigumo is not in the danger zone. He's only got 9 kilometer torpedoes, and so we know if we're dark with our 12.4 km concealment, there's zero danger of any torpedoes coming our way. Meanwhile, the friendly Minigumo is in the center of the map, possibly hot on the tail of the enemy Minigumo, and what I'd really like to do is get rid of this Des Moines and or this Hindenburg, because they're going to be the largest threats to the friendly Minigumo. But they are playing quite passively here down by the map border, and friendly or enemy Preußen is pushing in all the time. Speaking of enemy Preußen, one of them, and I don't know if it's this one or one on the other side of the map, sinks another ship. And so we're down to 4 ships versus 6. Heavily outnumbered, I would say. We're going to try to even the odds here by sinking this Preußen, who continues to be broadside. Luckily, German science, as they say, is pretty good. And so the German science of turtleback technology saves the Preußen from a trip back to port, but only temporarily. Enter the friendly Minigumo, who I think has failed to find the enemy Minigumo, but he's in a position where he's got the ability to get torpedoes on the Preußen. Now, we slowed down here. We don't want to push straight into the Preußen and open ourselves up for a ram. We've got to maintain our maneuverability, and we see the torpedoes from the Minigumo. They look like they're good, so we don't need to waste another salvo against the Preußen. We get a fist on him, and he goes back to port. Now, we've got the Des Moines and the Hindenburg. Both of these are pretty bad ships to be pushing into. They both have a tremendous amount of firepower when it comes to their HE, and if we've got 2 of them focusing us at one time, even if we had 1 of them, well, we're going to lose HP very, very quickly if we push in. What we need to do now is turn away, and we have the ability to do that because we are not having to worry about angling against battleship guns. Now, we're not turning away yet. We are being a little bit aggressive, we're pushing in. But soon we're going to recognize that this is untenable. And this is the moment right here. You see that smoke screen? Well, we wouldn't have known, even with the concealment, because we're firing our guns, we're on fire, the detectability is very far. We could have just assumed that the two cruisers are spotting us. We wouldn't have known, necessarily, that the enemy Minagumo was right there, unless he deployed that smoke screen to conceal his teammate, the Des Moines. But now that he did that, we know for sure torpedoes are going to be coming in that direction. And so we simply make a drastic change of course, turn all the way around, and once again, we avoid all the torpedoes from the Minagumo. Another example of paying attention and having good game sense. Generally speaking, that's what you need in order to avoid torpedoes in your battleship. You just need to be paying attention, you need to have good awareness of what's going on in the game, and an understanding of the fundamentals like concealment and how spotting works, and that is often enough to help you avoid destroyers. Turns out that when they launch their torpedoes in the water, those torpedoes have to travel in a straight line for a fairly long distance before they ever reach your ship, and one change in course or speed can throw off the entire salvo. However, we're in bad shape right now. We've only got our friendly Minagumo, we've got the Dalian, who I think was responsible for taking the Bravo cap, and we've got me, versus the Hindenburg and the Des Moines, both of whom are kiting toward the map border, and therefore completely irrelevant to the outcome of the battle. And then we've got the enemy Minagumo hot on our tails, and there's at least two battleships that were last spotted near the Charlie Cap, undoubtedly headed toward Bravo. Now the Minagumo, despite the fact, the friendly Minagumo that is, despite the fact that he will end up on top of the leaderboard, what he's doing right now is, in my opinion, not a great idea. You can see he's pushed straight into the Des Moines and the Hindenburg, and of course the Des Moines has radar. And, well, with their positions all the way on the map border, trying to escape this map and go to another one, I suppose, they would know that the only thing that could possibly be spotting them is the enemy destroyer. And so the Des Moines has no doubt popped his radar, which is why the Minagumo was taking some damage there. And the two of them, the Hindenburg and Des Moines, probably both of them have sonar. So it's unlikely the Minagumo is going to land any torps on either of them. He's going to run away now, and we're going to try to help him out. We should have shots here momentarily on the Hindenburg, who would be able to, theoretically, spot the Minagumo with his German sonar. Minagumo is spotted somehow. I don't know if that is the Hindenburg sonar, or if that's the Des Moines radar, and he was spotted by the sonar first. Who knows? However, the salvo is out, and the Hindenburg goes down. But I think it's too little too late to save our teammate, the Minagumo. He's still spotted, and, well, he gets taken out by the Colombo. Meanwhile, we are distracted trying to, hit the Hindenburg and all that, and so we do take some torpedoes, finally, from the enemy Minagumo, but it's just two of them. It's not enough to sink us, and so we are okay. At this point, if you take a look at the points count, we have over 700, nearly 800, and the enemy team is approaching 400. We are more than 300 points ahead of them, and there's just over a minute left to go in this battle. So all we have to do at this point is observe the points count and then survive. And how are we going to do that? Well, we're not going to do that by pushing in toward the enemy Minagumo behind us. We're not going to do that by pushing into the Colombo. What we need to do is sail for the map border, much like the Dalian. However, the Colombo is pushing in, and there is an island sort of directly in front of us, so we do need to be careful. We can see the island indicator on the screen, and the last thing we want to do is run into that island broadside to the Colombo. With the Colombo's improved AP penetration angles, we may already be too broadside to him at this point. Minagumo, evidently frustrated by his inability to completely sink us, opens fire as he goes behind the island and does light a single fire on us. And we get a little lucky that the Columbo gets a poor roll of the dice, I think, there on RNG. He could have done probably a lot more damage to us, but as it stands, he didn't do too much at all. And we're able to hit him in return for 11k. But he's not even going to be able to get another salvo in the air. The battle ends with our victory, mostly because we recognized it would be untenable to push late in the game and that we actually needed to turn around and kite. And so, even though we are fourth on the leaderboard with 2,418 base XP and the Dalian is second, I think it's the two of us surviving as we did and playing the match as we did that allowed the blue team to win this one, considering everybody else pushed in too far and got sunk. So, the bottom line, pay attention to the map, try to develop good game awareness, and always keep track of the points. You don't need to always push in. Aggression is not a virtue if it means giving up your ship, losing points for your team, and not being able to help win the battle. So I hope you enjoyed this video or found it helpful. Give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.